Hello, how are you doing, everyone? I'm decided to uh, set up a video series, uh, and I got this idea from ep1 talk, and he made a good point about how we have the likes of Chucky Mark, who's willing to talk about political issues, but he said there's not much about northern people from north. So I'm going to set up this is the brand new series, which I am calling the Northern Powerhouse. Now, I'll be talking about different subjects politically, and if things go well, who knows. Uh, so, firstly, I'm going to talk about universal credit. Now, there is a local MP, and I'm going to send him this email. I'm just going to find out the name of him. So anyway, I'll just find out the name of the email. Anyway, the guy has basically defended working tax credit. Now, for me, working tax credit is horrific. It doesn't do what it's meant to do, purely because in theory it's a good idea, but the management of it is so complex and so kind of wrong that it makes it very difficult for people. Now, speaking of the things that are relevant, there are a few things with this that's wrong. Firstly, the 6-week waiting time. Now, this was the main reason people were arguing from both sides, from the Greens, from the Lib Dems, from the SNPs, and uh, personally, if they'd have just relaxed that whole attitude, I think there wouldn't have been a debate. It's just pure and simple. Typical political, they just stuck their heads in the sand and didn't bother listening to anyone whatsoever. And what did we find? We found they took their ball and went home with it because they knew they wouldn't win the argument. They decided no one would have a chance against them, so they didn't vote. What does that say to... One of them didn't even bother to show up. He was too busy refereeing a football match. Now, what does that say to the people who elect them? If your MP can't even be bothered to vote, it shows that they don't care about you or the constituencies. They're not listening to you at all. Now, the fallout with this is that people are suffering. 6 weeks with no money is a long time to not be without money. It can mean that your electricity, your water gets cut off. You are in so many rent arrears, and if you're in a private rent, not like social housing, not like the council, then you will basically face eviction on these 6 weeks. And they're claiming that, oh, it's to get people work ready. Well, if it was the month that you had to wait, then that would be fine. And that was what the main argument was about. But they just ignored it, and they just kept ranting on about how it will transform lives. Yes, it will transform lives, but not in the way they claim. It'll transform lives because it'll either end lives or put people in the streets, force kids into care because they can't look after them. Malnutrition will be a key factor. Why are we doing this? Why are we letting them get away with it? There's no real way. And on the other side, a friend of mine was watching one of these benefit programs, and I mean benefit, and there is so much bad media propaganda about people who are sick, disabled, and they're all making everyone out who was disabled to be scroungers, skivers, and half them are not. People now, I find it very difficult. The work capability assessment is a nightmare for a lot of people. I suffer from mental health myself, and I've been through it, and it's awful. It's embarrassing. It just makes you feel horrible, and at the end of it, they still decided I wasn't fit just because I can sit here and talk to a camera, or I can talk to a person. They didn't take into account that when I have a target, I get very anxious. I get very weird in very high pressure situations, and I get panic attacks. But none of that was mentioned in the actual assessment. I am appealing it, and that's where I'm going to leave it. But the point I'm making is there are people worse off than me that are getting declared fit for work. I mean, I'm thinking maybe borderline, possibly, I'll be in the work support group, which I don't mind being in, because I still want to work. I just want to work with a little bit of help. But the job centre have not got the resources to help these people or help me. They just signpost me to other organisations. And anyway, but that's the issue that they've got with this whole work will set you free. Yeah, great if there is work. But remember though that the only work that's out there is 0-hour contracts. A lot of stuff is being automated. If you take, for example, Pound Shop now, they have automated tills where humans they're not needed as much. Maybe one human to kind of set a code in if it goes wrong. That's all they have. And you're getting people who do not know the technology struggling with how to work it because they know the tills. Or the tills are at the back now, but they've merged it into another company. So now these pound shops are full of clothes as well, which makes it very difficult to know where you're going. And these are real issues that people are facing if they're unemployed. These are the real issues of there's no jobs out there. Or if there is jobs out there, it's 0 hours. Because this is what these places want. They want 0 contracts because they don't have to pay as much. They can just hire everyone and claim, oh look, we're getting loads of people into work, but they're not giving people money, the right money to do it. And that's why I think we should also have the living wage as well, the £10 an hour. Anyway, so that's going to be my first video, and it's just going to be talking about benefits and universal credit. I would love to see what you know. I'm going to as well forward this to this MP who's claiming it's great. But remember though that people are losing their lives because of this benefit. Because of the benefit changes. People who are not fit for work are getting put into very stressful situations. Some people with heart conditions and they're dying of heart attacks. There's people with mental health who are committing suicide, and in general, just all sorts of things. So there you go. That's what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to do something that Let's Talk said. We need to start talking more about things. We need to start raising our voices, because the more people that are bringing this up, it's harder for them to ignore. Chucky Mark can do it, Let's Talk can do it. I'm doing it now, so I hope other people will as well. So there you go. And let's see if we can kind of either get the government to change their horrible decisions, their austerity, their welfare reforms, because it's not working. It's not working the way they want, or is it working the way they want it? But we're more in debt now than ever been. So financially, it's destroying its purpose of what it was meant to do. And there's two options. Number one, we can put pressure on our MPs that we've elected to kind of listen to our arguments and not just rely on what the dogma is of that party. If you have a Tory MP, tell him that you are not happy with them not voting. If you have a Labour MP, give them stories, tell them things that are happening, give them evidence, because when they have evidence, they can fight for us. And it's the same if you're SNP, Green, or even if you're one of the Irish parties. If you've got evidence, tell your MP and make sure they know the truth. And if they don't listen, get the word out, spread it publicly what's going on. Okay? And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.